we should be live. Yes, we are now live. I think everybody can hear us. Guys, do let me know in the chat down below if you can hear me properly or not. So Shailja, welcome to today's session. Thank you so much for joining with us today. So today with us we have Shailja Beria. Shailja, before we start the session, I would like you to introduce yourself. What are you doing right now? What was your journey like? So in today's session, we are going to do a quick deep dive with Shailja as to how she prepared for the examination, how she got the rank that she got, how did she end up at the college that she wanted to study in, or whether this was your college, whether this was the college of your choice or not. All of those things we are going to talk about with Shailja. So, Shailja, yes, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Uh, Hi, I'm Shailja Beria. So, and I like to read. So, right now I'm reading Sylvia Plath's Beljar. And besides that, I have vacations right now. And I'm studying at NUJS.
You're studying at NUJS. Shailja, give me a moment, please. I think there seems to be a slight issue with the live. Guys, all those who are seeing us live right now, and yes, I noticed that there is some issue right now with my video. Kindly give me a moment to just fix this. Give me a moment, guys. I'm going to be back live in a second. Give me a second, Shailja, please.
Yeah.
I think the screen should be fixed now. I think the screen should be fixed now. Guys, do let me know if the screen is now fixed and you can all see us properly. Kindly let me know. Yes, I think now we are back to perfectly visible. Thank you so much for being, first of all, thank you so much, guys, for being patient. There was a slight technical glitch there, and I was, yeah, well, now all of you know that I am technically handicapped. So much for being a modern teacher. But welcome so much to the session, Shailja. First of all, thank you so much for taking your time out for being with us here today and talking with all of us. Because the reason is that as a teacher, there is a limit to how much we can share with our students, or there's a limit to how much we can connect with them. And even when we tell them that no, yes, you guys can do it, and if any student can do it, you can also do it, they sort of look at us like, it's so easy for you to say you're a teacher. But when a student just like them comes and talks to them and tells them that it is indeed possible, and what are the things that you took into consideration while you were taking your journey for the examination, it becomes much more relatable and much more easier for them to see themselves in these colleges. So first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. We at Unacademy are always happy
Sure.
and so glad to have people, young and focused people like you to talk to. So thank you so much for coming here today. So
My pleasure.
Shailja, first of all, let us quickly start off by just discussing your rank and how you reached that rank and how you reached NUJS. So was this the college of your choice when you started preparing for the examination?
Not exactly, no.
No.
So when I started preparing, my preference list was based completely on ranks.
Mm-hmm.
So it was NLSIU, then Ulster, and then NUJS.
Right. And how long did you take, or what was your journey like? When did you start preparing for the CLAT examination? Did you start right after your 10th, or was it after your 12th you took a break? How did you start preparing for the CLAT examination?
So I started preparing for CLAT in class 11, which was around the summer vacations or a little later.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's
And
when you start.
yeah.
That's when you started preparing for the CLAT examination. And Did you completely go very seriously into the examination then and there the moment you joined, or did the seriousness for the examination and that, okay, I really want to get into a top college and that requires me to be serious about the examination, did that come in much later, or did you just start off being completely prepared to take on the difficulty of the examination?
No, I think the seriousness came much later, which was around the time when the pattern change happened,
Right.
which was sometime in January of my class 12.
Right. And this pattern change, how did it affect you? Because even now, a lot of students are confused about the new pattern. Okay, how there's only one. I think it's been only your batch that has actually taken the new latest pattern of the examination. So, what was one? How did you deal with that pattern change? And was that pattern change very difficult in terms of all year long you had prepared for with the earlier pattern? Did that help you with the pattern change? Or was it completely different from what you had expected the exam to be?
I think that for me, the pattern change was helpful rather than more difficult to deal with.
Right.
Because I read reasonably fast, so I could handle most of the questions. And I think even the preparation that I had done before the pattern change did clear out my concepts to the extent that the pattern change did not really change things a lot.
Right. You were prepared, like at the end of the day, because that is what even when we are teaching in class, a lot of students are asking, sir, how to deal with this pattern change. Ki class mein to we are doing the sometimes doing the old type of questions. So yes, now the question that all of you have been asking me, guys, कि sir वो कैसे होगा? Pattern change हो भी गया तो भी the old types of questions and learning the basic theories of law is only going to help you further reach your answer very quickly and answer in a much more accurate manner. Okay, a few people have been telling for the past 2 minutes your voice is not clear. Is it clear now, guys? Please let me know in the comments down below. I think now the voice has cleared up. Please let me know if it is if you guys are still facing issues with the voice. Right. Somebody's asking you if you got rank 7, then why NUJS, why not NLSIU?
Okay, so I stay in Calcutta, so that was one factor. Besides that, I think I've seen like placement wise, I think most colleges are more or less placed at the same position, at least the top 3-4 colleges.
Right.
And I think I spoke to a number of seniors. So I felt like it wasn't a huge difference between the different colleges, and seeing as I lived in Calcutta, right, it was more convenient to take
that up. Right, absolutely. And now let us get into the preparation part of things as to what were the specific strategies that you adapted in order to actually help you get a rank 7, which is not an easy rank considering the number of students who write, considering the fact that it's such a competitive examination. A question that everybody seems to be asking is, how did you prepare for current affairs? So we will first start off with that only. We'll talk about current affairs only. सबसे पहले कि current affairs is one area where a lot of students feel कि बहुत दिक्कत होती है. They find it to be very difficult to store that much amount of information. On top of that, you have to remember things for a whole year. How did you go about it? What were the strategies that you adapted to ensure that your current affairs was intact?
Okay, so for current affairs, it wasn't my strongest subject from the very beginning.
Right.
So, like when CLAT started to get postponed, current affairs was the only section that I was focusing on.
Right.
Because I was reasonably confident with everything else, and I was really worried about current affairs. So at that point, there were a number of lists of important topics on different websites or different coaching institutes. So, and I was provided a list even from my mentor. And we had daily current affairs tests. So that really helped because you used to brush up on like 2-3 topics for a week. And so you used to try to read everything on those 2-3 topics within that week.
And how did you tackle with remembering the whole thing? You had the topics and all those you went across every week. I was doing 3 topics, dividing it and learning. But did you have any specific trick that you adapted apart from this, or was it just brushing up on a regular basis and just going through everything on a regular basis once again, like as many times
So
as
I
possible?
think, yeah. So I think more important than remembering is understanding, because with current affairs we try to take it like something that you have to learn up and then reproduce. But the fact is, with the new pattern, nothing is about learning things up and putting it out there.
Right.
So even with current affairs, you had to understand what the news was. Like in CLAT 2020, we had a number of questions which asked not about the XYZ happened, but they asked what would be the implications of X happening.
Right.
So if you had understood that piece of news very thoroughly, then you wouldn't have to remember any facts about it, but the very fact that you understood the news would contribute to the reaching the answer.
Right. So now, at least in the new pattern, now it's not more important than remembering it, is knowing it and understanding the context around the news that is happening. Yes, guys. So, like Shailja has told us, I also agree with the same, that it's no more about testing ki can you remember everything, right? Can you remember on what day what happened? Rather, what they want to know is, one, of course, do you know this particular issue or thing that they are talking about, and do you know enough about it to arrive at a conclusion on a passage based on it? So, are you able to, or have you followed and understood that happening that has happened? Is what is more important, and that is what you guys also have to focus upon. So that is with current affairs. Anything else? Did you maintain a diary in order to remember things, or you just kept going through them as many times as possible, especially because your exam was getting postponed?
So I mostly had the list, and for the topics that I considered most important, I had written down certain facts or certain things which are related to that, and I kept trying to update those lists and the facts. And at the same time, when I started reading up on any particular topic, then I tried to find everything related to that topic.
Right.
So if I'm sitting with one topic for say half an hour or an hour, then I'm not just sticking to the like a single page about it, but finding anything that is subsidiary to that topic and then also researching about that.
Okay. That's actually, guys, for everybody who's listening to this, that is actually a very, very effective trick. Because here, what she has done is she's taken the whole. You have two choices in that position there. The first is to mug up and try to remember everything, or the second, process the information through your brain enough times that you automatically, subconsciously remember what that particular thing was. So instead of just taking one topic and for 5 minutes repeating it over and over again, what Shailja did there was she picked a topic and she tried finding a lot of information about it. And now that wasn't just a topic, it was an event or a particular thing that she read about, which makes it much easier for her to remember, which is a very simple, but as we have seen that she's used that technique and actually got great results out of it, we also now know that it is an extremely effective technique as well. Okay, I am quickly going to do one thing. I think there seems to be a lag on the internet that I'm using. So I am going to, in a minute, just.
Type or GMAT type verbal reasoning questions which are available online.
Mm-hmm.
So try to start solving them or questions of a similar pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And always make sure that after you solve the set, you don't just mark yourself and let it be at that. Once you've solved the set and you mark yourself, look where you're going wrong, and try to convince yourself with the logic that is given there.
Right.
So you have to make sure that you know why you were wrong, not just that you were wrong.
Right. And in general, with quant and logical, a lot of students find those areas to be difficult. Was it as difficult for you, or were you always good at maths and logical? These came easily to you?
I think I had a little trouble with managing time with quant, but logic was
easy for you. And how did you practice those? Did you practice them on a regular basis? And with quant, the areas that were difficult to you, how did you deal with those areas? How did you improve yourself on a regular basis for those areas?
So I used to practice with tests only. So whenever we had tests, I used to prepare that particular subject. and I used to try to focus on mocks more because a chunk of my preparation happened after my board exams.
Right.
So, like before my boards, I had tried to be as confident as I could with the concepts, and then after boards, it was largely mocks and the GK.
Right.
So, with the mock, once you solve the mock, you have to go back to it. You have to see what kind of time you're taking to each of the sections. You have to look at what questions are going wrong, what kind of mistakes you're repeatedly making by looking at 2, 3 mocks, seeing which sections are your strong suit, which is less, and all that.
Right. And time management. How did you overcome that? What was your way to deal? Like you said, in some areas you found that you were struggling in terms of time, managing the time. How did you deal with that?
Okay, so in the beginning, I was starting with quant, and I had this inclination to try to finish or try to solve all the questions.
Right.
So it's a small section. It should not take you more than 15 minutes. But because I was not being able to solve certain questions, I was staying with it for around 30 minutes.
Right.
Which meant that I was losing out on the other sections. So what I did was that instead of starting with quant, I left 20 minutes in the end for quant. So
Right.
that meant that I had 5 more minutes than the 15 that it should be taking me. But at the same time, I was not spending my time over there. And it gave me enough time to deal with the other sections as well. And so that's how I managed with quant.
With quant.
And for other sections, like for English, I felt confident in that section. So instead of taking, say, 30 or 35 minutes, I tried to finish it in 25 minutes. Which is like, it's not something that many people should target.
Right.
Because it could hamper accuracy. But try to take less time in the sections where you are confident and you usually get a good accuracy.
Right.
And always keep noticing if your speed and accuracy is balancing each other. As in, if you feel like giving less time or more time to something is hampering your accuracy, is hampering your scores, then you have to check it as and when you solve more mocks.
Right. It has to be balanced. You have to, wherever the areas where you feel super confident, try to increase your or reduce the time that you take there by increasing speed, and the other places still keep on giving as much, but maintaining the accuracy overall. Yes. So somebody is asking you that last year exams had a lot of ambiguous questions where you're not able to understand what exactly is going on or what they are aiming with it. So how did you manage to get the answers correct, especially in the English session? Did you was it just your regular practice, or so what I am assuming, or what I think, if I answer that question, Adi, I think she had done enough practice to be able to, whether the question was ambiguous or not, or even if the question had been extremely ambiguous, she would have reached the answer because of a regular practice. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, and also I think with last year's pattern and last year's paper, the problem that a lot of people face was that when you're reading something, then you tend to immediately form your own opinions.
Right.
But the problem is that many of those opinions are not warranted by the information that is given in the passage.
Correct.
So you have to be very strict to what you understand from the passage and not impose your own opinions on it. Because the passage could probably, through some extension, justify those opinions, but it will bring you to a wrong answer because that is not what the passage is saying.
Right. So somebody seems to be asking how to prepare for legal reasoning. So I'm going to take that question. I think that was around the time when there was a slight lag. Virkeshwar, so how Shailja prepared for legal reasoning was that she would, apart from, like how in classes we go through all the basic legal reasoning principles, she did that. She did the previous year type questions, the old pattern questions. But along with that, she would also on a regular basis read and go through all the important legal issues in the newspaper. That is, she would read about the legal issues that were happening, she would follow the news and understand the scenario along with the legal concept that is applied there, which made it easy for her to be able to tackle a question. Whether or not she had read about it, now what had happened or what by her reading on a regular basis of newspaper and legal news, she developed an acumen to be able to understand whatever was being talked about a legal issue, which made it easy for her to be able to answer the question. And for those who are asking about current affairs, again, Bhavya had asked about current affairs. So for current affairs, what Shailja did was she would pick up a topic, she would take that particular topic and read a lot about the same topic as much as possible, instead of just focusing on one particular issue, instead of just focusing on one fact, instead of just focusing on one thing about a particular thing. She would just read as much, as broadly as she could about that particular topic, making it easier for her to remember it also, and that would also lead her to having a lot of information at the end of it about that particular topic. Am I correct? Have I summed up both your...
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, you've also told us about with time preparation, you put a lot of time into your strategies and you put a lot of time into preparing. Before the exam, what are there any specific things that you like sort of keep in mind as to, okay, when I'm going to exam, I'm only going to take this much time, or do you have a plan A, B, and C going for when you are writing the examination?
Okay, so when you're giving mocks, be ready with the strategy that best suits you. So
Right.
that means giving a lot of mocks because that tells you what is working for you.
Right.
Just giving maybe 5, 10 mocks will not make you that confident on what is working for you. So you all that trial and error happens only at the mock stage. When you're giving the exam, you have to stick with what has worked for you and what you're sure of.
Right.
While giving the paper, if you've given enough mocks, you have to try to feel like even when you're giving mocks, try to create the environment that you have during the examination. That is, no one disturbing you, not eating or drinking in the middle.
Right.
Fully concentrated on whatever. If you are having a pen paper test, then on marking it on your OMR and everything. So all that you have to do every time you give a mock and not just on the exam day. And if you're doing it that way, then by the time the exam is there, when you have the paper before you, then it will feel like another mock.
Right.
So then you have to give your best, thinking of it not as the biggest exam or the exam you've been preparing for 2 years or something like that, but just another mock.
Just another mock. Excellent. That's a great strategy, guys. That prepare for mocks so much that each mock feels like an exam, and that the final exam just feels like a mock. Very well put. That really sums up the uh, process of preparation. That you do something enough times, you will take out, worry out of the equation. Your tension will go out of the equation. It will be just you, your paper and question, and just a matter of, can I answer this question? Can I not? Is this question worth spending time and answering or not? It comes down eventually on the day of the exam to that one simple choice. Is this question worth putting my time? Or will that time get wasted because I get the answer wrong? And it's just that balance that you're always trying to maintain. Okay, somebody is asking you what was your score in each section, if you can remember. What was your score in each of the sections?
I don't really remember that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one surprising thing for me was that for all the mocks, legal had been my weakest section.
Right.
But in CLAT, I only got 2 questions wrong in legal after attempting every.
Right.
So
that
was what really influenced my score also. In math, it was somewhere around 10 out of 14, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then one answer got cancelled, so it was around 9 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I remember.
And somebody else is also asking that in your one of your videos you said that you had 20 topics for CLAT, like for current affairs. So the Aditi is not, her issue is that she's not able to make a concise list. Like you were able to bring it down to 20. What did you do to, how did you decide, okay, this topic goes here, this is worth, and this one I can, I can leave this for now. How did you decide upon that?
So I think this 20 topics thing that I spoke about, that is something I did 2 days before CLAT.
Right.
Like just 2 days before. So that was like a desperate attempt to cover whatever, because I was still not confident with current affairs, and it was like a really last ditch attempt. And then it was surprising because actually came in the paper.
Right.
Like a large number of topics came in the paper, and those were things that I had read only a day before CLAT.
Right. And how did you decide these? Was it just on the basis of okay, these are the biggest things I can remember in the year? A lot of sedition cases had happened around that time. A lot of issues were going on which were regularly being discussed. Did you just pick those out, or did you just randomly pick out those subjects?
Yeah, so last year CLAT AILET was like a couple of days before CLAT. So that was what gave me the idea to make this list, because I saw that in AILET the paper had a lot of topics which was so mainstream that initially you would have thought that they won't give something so mainstream.
Right.
But they stuck with that. So I thought, let's look at what is most focused today. And I had like a habit of reading the newspaper since I was a kid. So I understand the news enough to know how to pick out what's really important and everything. Just a year before CLAT, I had subscribed to the Indian Express. I think that newspaper covers the news very well.
Okay.
And so the past 6 months had been constantly talking about topics, reading up about topics and everything. So it was more of an instinct thing where you felt like this is something that I've read about multiple times,
and
this is something that people still want to be talking about.
Yeah.
Like there are certain news items which people just keep on talking about.
Right.
And it also feels important. So it's not like KUSHAL Singh that people are talking about, but it's not really relevant. But something very important, but also something that people want to keep talking about.
Right.
So that's how I picked out my list.
That is, you scan the news again and again, and issues that felt of national importance, relating to governance, basically relating to the topic that any CLAT student would be expected to know about. You picked out those topics and you kept going on about them and made your final list. Okay, now before we end our session, let me quickly just ask you, what was the gap between your mocks and your final? Was that journey from like an average, getting that average marks to finally scoring one of the topmost scores in the country? Did you all of a sudden see that happening? Were you scoring high in your mocks? Because that's a myth, right? Everybody thinks this person's a topper, so he or she must have scored all throughout consistently, high marks aaye honge, which I know for a fact being a teacher is not true. So could you just shed some light on that before we end the session?
Okay, so like when I was not very serious about CLAT, the first few mocks that I gave, I got something around like 1,000 rank or something. It was not like a great rank. And then just in one mock it clicked and I got something around the 20th rank.
Mm-hmm.
So, and after that it always kept on going up and down.
Right.
So it differed from which institute you're giving the mock with, from what time you're giving the mock, how you're giving the mock, your own attempt, everyone else's attempt, what kind of paper it was. So it kept on fluctuating. It stayed within a 50 to 100 range. Mm-hmm. So it didn't fall below that. But I think I've known like a lot of people whose mock ranks were never as high as mine or some other people's, and the ranks didn't show, the final CLAT day ranks did not show mock ranks. So I think that's not something that you should worry about as such.
Because it's more about the practice. It's the fact that you keep doing the mocks rather than performing well in the mocks. And did you spend enough time after each mock to figure out where you went wrong, what you should not be doing?
Yes, so I'd like to add one thing to that. I think more than your mock ranks or your percentile, you know whether you're improving or not.
Right, absolutely.
You know whether your attempt is going better or not. So even if I get ranked 10 in one mock and in another mock I get ranked 50, I could still know that the other mock was better than the previous mock. So that's not something that your ranks or your percentile will always show.
Right.
Maybe it won't vary very largely, as in it won't go from 10 to 1,000 and still be a better mock. But at the same time, the small differences, they don't mean that you're doing better or worse. It's just what you know.
Right. Perfect. So I guess we have covered pretty much all the topics, and thank you so much, Shailja, for being so thorough with everything and explaining to us in detail how you how you cracked and how you got the rank that you got. Thank you so much for being with us here today, and wish you all the best in your journey at law school, and hope that you come out with flying colors. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you.
I am going to just end the session.